Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes. With Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? You know, I'm one of those guys that always wait till the last minute to start making adjustments to things that I should either just left alone or I should have made adjustments on it a long time ago. So we're getting ready to start the show, and the reason why we're literally like 2 minutes late, which doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to tell you a funny story, is I remembered people commenting in the comment section after my last live that, hey, Strategic, we can't see your tie because your mic is blocking it. So my mic is still blocking my tie, or we'll experiment. You tell me if you can still hear me if I keep the mic down here rather than further up to my face. But at the last minute, I decided to move the mic boom from the table that has all my computers and stuff and move it to a side end table to hopefully make, you know, my ties more visible, because you guys like to see my suits and my ties, and I appreciate that. I'm flattered by that. So I hope I worked out. I hope it worked out a little bit better. I hope you guys can still hear me, because that was a big issue we had when we changed formats for the channel. You guys hearing me, the sound was kind of twisted, and I'm using OBS instead of StreamYards and blah, 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 blah. And I think we fixed it in the last live, but I hope I didn't fix it, or rather break it by messing with this mic right before the live. But that being said, whatever it is, what it is, we move on. I appreciate you guys for joining me. I hope you had a great Monday. Happy Monday, guys. As I told you guys before, I'm on vacation this week, so I can give you more videos, and I hope you guys will enjoy this video that we're going to talk about today. Now, one thing I don't do on my channel, I don't like to do, is I don't like clickbait titles and salacious titles. So when I give you a title, I literally mean what I have said in the title, right? And so one or two, we're going to cover two stories today. And one is going to be about a guy, and we'll start with him, who literally tortured two kids, starved them because he didn't want them to poop. That's right, he did not want those kids to poop, so he figured he'd feed them less, and therefore they'd have to defecate less. You can't make up the depravity and the evil that you find in this world, ladies and gentlemen. Like, truly, there are just literally some people who don't deserve to be amongst the rest of us. There are just a lot of people in this world who just aren't interested in the rules and the decency that we have in our society and in human nature, because really, it doesn't matter where you go in the world. It's not something that's exactly viewed as acceptable. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this guy up on the screen, guys. I want to talk about him. And then we're going to talk about this teacher who, it's a story that happened last year, but it's back in the news now because new information has come out and her trial is about to start. It's about a pedo female teacher. And I think it's important that we talk about this stuff, guys, because there is a such thing as a woman who is a sexual predator. It is rare. It doesn't happen as often as men, but it's something we need to talk about. And it's something that you need to be aware about, because predators always put themselves in positions where they have easy access to their prey. And when you have female predators, they are going to most often be teachers, babysitters, counselors, nurses. They're going to fall into those professions. Why? Because they have easy access to their prey. So we're going to talk about that case, the nuance of that case, and then we'll call it a day after that. So let me bring this guy in. You can look at his mug. This guy right here is Victor Prado, 45 years old. Now, this story has not been widely covered, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you can't find this story on YouTube. You can't find a news source for it. You can't find a YouTuber talking about it. And it's unfortunate, because I think it's important that we highlight these types of stories. So let's read a little bit into it. Unfortunately, it will not be any videos I can show you about it, but we're gonna get a wealth of knowledge on what this guy did exactly. And I'm happy to say, I'm going to jump the gun, and I'm going to tell you, I'm happy to say, ladies and gentlemen, that he's serving 2 life sentences. He won't be eligible for parole until he's served at least 39 years of his sentence. 39 years. He's 45 years old right now. Most likely, this man is going to die in prison. And I think that's exactly where he needs to be. All right, so let's jump into this. A Houston man has been sentenced to serve 2 life terms in prison this week for severely abusing 2 small children over the course of 2 years, including a multitude of horrific acts such as withholding food because it makes the children have to poop. Victor Prado, 45, has been convicted after being accused of beating 2 small children, restraining them with zip ties, and withholding food from them in 2019 and 2020, Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg said in a news release on Prado's sentencing. Our children are the most valuable resource and our most vulnerable victims, Ogg said. This man intentionally tortured 2 little children and now hopefully will spend the rest of his life in prison. Prado worked in a Southwest Houston commercial office building as the owner of a moving company. Now, this place was not set up for anybody to live in there. There's no kitchen, there's no showers, there was a bathroom, but this was not a place that people should be living in, and he moved this woman in. And one thing I did not hear as I researched this story is what was the outcome for the mother? Because I felt as though the mother should have been punished just as much as Mr. Prado, because she knew what he was doing to her children and she was negligent in protecting her children. But let's keep going. He was dating a woman who was the mother of a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. Look how young these children are. And Prado let them live in the building. A witness told police that the building was for commercial use and was not suited for children, and it was not equipped with a kitchen or shower. The witness, who filed a complaint with Child Protective Services earlier that month, said she had previously seen the couple leaving the office building at night without their children and would also sometimes hear the victim screaming at night, according to an affidavit obtained by Law and Crime. Now, I'm happy that this witness called Child Protective Services, and that is what resulted in the children being removed, and it is what resulted in this man spending the rest of his life in prison. But I really do wish that this person would have also called the police, because this was a situation that you could have called the police directly instead of having to go through the bureaucracy of Child Protective Services. And we all know that Child Protective Services often fails children. I'm sorry to say it. I've worked a myriad of cases with Child Protective Services, and these are hardworking people, but their policies and procedures, especially in a state like New York, are not good. They hinder prosecutions in many instances by informing perpetrators of what they're being accused of before police are ready to inform them. But I'm just getting to the weeds of things. But we have seen documented cases time and time again across this country where Child Protective Services has failed children and resulted in children dying or experiencing horrific abuse and torture. So I wish they would have called Child Protective Services and called the police at the same time so that they could at least ensure that those children would have gotten help. But once again, it worked. They called Child Protective Services and the system worked in this instance. Let's keep going. The witness said that on one particular occasion, Prado and the mother left music blaring inside the office, and she said that the children were left inside and tied up, the affidavit reportedly stated. The witness, who noticed that the children looked like they were being starved, said she spoke to Prado about why he had not been feeding the young children, to which he allegedly replied, because it makes the children have to poop. I mean, if it was me, I would put hands on Prado and I would walk out of that building with those children and hand deliver them to the police. Like, unbelievable. I don't fault this lady. I mean, she's a lady. She's not going to beat up Prado, and she did the right thing. But so disturbing that she actually observed the children starved to the point where she noticed that they were starving. And this guy couldn't give 2 Fs. He couldn't care. He didn't have a care in the world. He even told her why he was starving the children. He did not care about any repercussions. So let's keep going. The now convicted man was supposed to watch the children while their mother went to work. However, in May 2020, the 2 children were removed from the mother's custody by Child Protective Services while they were investigating allegations about the children and took them to Texas Children's Hospital. A lot of times when you see this abuse, ladies and gentlemen, the abuse is occurring because you have single mothers, and I'm not blaming all single mothers, not at all. In fact, single mothers are some of the best and most courageous people on the planet. I was raised by a single mother. I think she did a good job. But you'll find single mothers who have no connection with their baby's father. Now, these children was 3 and 4. And I don't know if they had the same father, but I highly doubt it. And not one of their fathers were in their lives. At that point, I start looking and saying, well, how much of this is your fault? You know, shame on these men for abandoning their children. But how much of these bad choices are your fault, mom, that you have 2 children from 2 different fathers and neither one of those fathers are in their kid's life? And I'm not saying that the mother did something wrong, that the fathers don't want to be in. I'm saying that she did something wrong by choosing these horrible fathers who refuse to be in the life of their children, 3 and 4 years old, and subject these children to the abuse of this monster. So a lot of times, as I find in these cases that I work, these mothers will find men who will be babysitters. Kind of like Stephen Stearns, right? Willful babysitters. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you find a man who's willing to babysit your children that are not biologically his, something's wrong with that guy. Something's wrong. He might have nefarious feelings, desires towards those children. We see it time and time again. The mother's out there working 2 and 3 jobs to keep the family afloat, and she gets with some loser ex-con dude who wants to stay on the couch and play PlayStation all day. And what do we end up finding out? The kids are being neglected. Kids are being starved. The kids are being physically abused and assaulted. The kids are being sexually abused. We get all these things. Why? Because if a guy is going to stay home all day and watch your kids, something is wrong with him, that he's not out there trying to make his own money, trying to support the family, so you don't need to work as much to watch the kids. Or you both working your butts off so that you can elevate the lifestyle of everybody in the household. Something's wrong. But let's keep going. The then not convicted man was supposed to watch the children while their mother went to work. However, in May 2020, the 2 children were removed from the mother's custody by Child Protective Services while they were investigating allegations about the children and took them to Texas Children's Hospital. At a trial later on that lasted 6 days, jurors heard evidence that the young 4-year-old boy was severely malnourished and weighed only 32 pounds, with medical personnel also testifying that the young boy looked like a skeleton. The boy had multiple broken bones in various stages of healing and permanent brain tissue loss. That's one of the reasons why this guy got life in prison, because this child will forever be impacted by the abuse he was subjected to. His quality of life will forever be impacted. The young girl also had allegedly been beaten, according to trial witnesses, and had several blunt force trauma injuries, including broken ribs, severe intestinal injury, as well as bed sores, the authorities said. Both the 3 and 4-year-old had broken pelvises that the district attorney's office said was an injury that is typically seen only in children who are in car crashes. He probably threw the kids, was throwing them all over the place. Where was the mother when this was happening? On top of all of the horrific details, the children also had ligature marks on their hands because they were bound. That's why they had ligature marks. He was tying their hands so tightly, actually folding the skin over it. It's terrible. I seen that when I was in corrections and a guy was trying to hang himself. He had the shoelace so tight around his neck as he was trying to end his life. We saved him though, God, God willing, and thank God that we did that. Not God willing, but thank God that we were able to do it. That the skin folded over the ligature so deep in there. It was a horrible sight. I'm not even gonna lie, I was traumatized from it afterwards. I literally saw this guy hanging for weeks. Terrible. Anyway, both the 3, okay, but typical of car crashes, okay. Doctors who examined the children had concluded that their injuries were classified as child torture, not child abuse, child torture. Prado was subsequently convicted on 2 counts of injury to a child causing serious bodily injury and first-degree felony. At a time of their lives when they should have been shown love and affection, amen to that, these 2 children were shown violence and fear. Sorry about that. They've lost their innocence, said the Assistant District Attorney, Alicia Sheridan, who was the chief of the DA's Juvenile Division and prosecuted Prado. They will have to live the rest of their lives with the effects of what this man did to them. and so should he. Amen to that. God bless this Houston DA for getting it right this time, because the Houston DA, and we're not talking politics here, these are facts. You can go look this up for yourself. The Houston DA has a history of going light on criminals. And so I'm very grateful that the Houston DA got two life sentences for this man. Daniel Oxford, the chief of DA's office against Children's Division, also prosecuted Prado. Prado's 2 life sentences will run concurrently, and he must serve at least 30 years in prison before he will be eligible for parole. In another article I read, it said 39 years before he's eligible for parole. This guy is an absolute monster, and I'm happy that he's spending pretty much the rest of his life. He's 45 years old. There's a good chance, if you just look statistically on how long adult males typically live, that he's going to die in prison, and rightfully so. This man is a monster, and he deserves everything that he got. All right, guys, I appreciate you for that, for sticking with me through that. We're going to, in a second, move over to this teacher who did the unthinkable. I want to just go to the chats real quick and give a shout out to everybody who's in the room showing love. Let's start from the beginning, man. We got Erica B in the building, first in the building. Appreciate you. Aki's there. Thanks for coming through and showing love, Aki. Chris Dryer's in the building. What up, Chris? Longtime supporter of the Strategic Eyes show. Melanie K is in the building. What's happening? Guys, I want to let you guys know that we do have a 99-cent membership. We just got it approved. I know I promoted it before in the last live. I thought that it was approved and it was up and running by YouTube, but that's not the case. It was not up and running. It is up and running now. It's absolutely up and running now. So I'm looking forward to all the people who are willing and able to contribute to the Strategic Eyes show by supporting the channel. If you can. If you can't, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. While I'm at it, I want to do this real quick. Okay. Okay. All right, just looking at something. So consider becoming a member. So Aki just dropped the link inside of the chat. Consider becoming a member. We do have other tiers. So if you want to, get more access and get more exclusive content, then you could get a higher tier. But if you definitely want to support the channel, get access to exclusive content, you can definitely join and hit us with that 99-cent membership, and we will appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's go back to the comment section and show some love. We got Daniel Williams in the building. Thanks for coming through. Chris Rice says, yellow tie, you can just turn up the gain a little bit. Let's see if we can go ahead and do that. Because when we get a suggestion, we definitely want to heed it. So give me a second. Let me go ahead and see if we can get that audio up a little bit more. I don't know if it'll let me do that, guys. Mic check, mic check. Let me see here. Filters. Gain. Here we go. Turn the gain up. Mic check, mic check, mic check. How do I sound now? Do I sound better? Let me know how I sound now that I turned the gain up a little bit on the mic, as Chris Dryer suggested. Let's keep going. Daniel Williams in the building. What's happening? Let's keep going. Sassy Pants 420's in the building. Appreciate you. Says I'm behind on the live. Just wanted to say hi. No worries. You'll catch up. We appreciate you for coming through, supporting the channel. Zozo Bob is in the building. What's up, Zozo Bob? For many years, Zozo Bob has been supporting the channel for many years. And for many, many years, I called Zozo Bob XOXO Bob until Zozo Bob corrected me. And it's much easier to say Zozo Bob than XOXO Bob. But thanks for supporting the channel for so many years. Appreciate you. And Zozo Bob says, at True Crime with Strategic Eyes, you look sharp in that suit, bro. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming through and supporting the channel and all the many years that you've been a part of the Strategic Eyes family. So thank you so much. Just Christine is in the building saying, showing some love and smashing a like button. I appreciate your hard work. Found you through Guilty of Crime, and you're one of my favorite channels. Thank you so much, Just Christine. I appreciate you. And I'm definitely I'm humbled by your support and just the positive vibes that I'm getting from this community. So thank you so much for everybody who supports the channel. Let's keep going. Missy Miss is in the building, who's also a Strategic Eyes member. Thank you so much for showing love. She said, what up, SC? Hey, Aki. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone's having an evening. Is going well. Thank you so much. Sassy Pants is now also a member of Strategic Eyes Show. Thank you so much. A new member, part of the Eyes crew. Took advantage of that 99 cents membership. Thank you so much for doing that, Sassy Pants. Really do appreciate you, and everybody else who is a member and will become a member in the future. Thank you so much. Precious Gem is in the building. What's happening? Thanks for coming through and supporting the channel, Precious Gem. All right, let's get going. Let's get back into it. Sassy Pants says, I love your show. And guess what? I love you too. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. So let's go ahead and get this young lady up here. This is, well, was a teacher. She was a teacher. Let's get into this. And let me bring you guys up to speed on this one. This one's terrible. I mean,
so she was arrested back in September of last year.
Pull it back.
She is the very definition of a predator.
A trial date is now set for this former Tennessee teacher accused of sexually assaulting at least 21 of her students.
All right, real quick. You know, I like to give credit where credit is due. Big shout out to Law and Crime. Law and Crime is the one who put this production together. Definitely, I appreciate it. So, you know, they don't copyright people. They allow people to react to their content. And I think that's awesome. So definitely go subscribe to Law and Crime. I don't know why. I don't know how you could be in the true crime community and not be subscribed to Law and Crime and Court TV. So make sure that you subscribe to those two. If you're new to true crime and you're feeling things out and you stumble on a Strategic Eyes Show and you subscribe to me, well, I'm telling you, you need to subscribe to these guys too, because this is where you get a lot of that information, and they don't really do a lot of fluff. They're just about the facts. They're straight down the middle, and I respect that and I love that, because that's really what we want. We want facts, right? We don't want you blowing smoke up our booties. When I give you guys my point of view, I'm giving it to you from my perspective and my experience. And when I'm telling you my theories and stuff, I make sure I tell you, hey, this is my theory. This is what I think may happen, you know. But sometimes people will come on YouTube and they'll tell you exactly what happened as though they have some insight to what happened. And that's just not the case, right? So definitely make sure you subscribe to Law and Crime. It's a real straight down the middle, just about the facts channel, reporting these definitely heinous criminal activities by these perps. Let's keep going.
If that's not enough, she's allegedly pregnant, and the baby's father is one of her victims.
The paternity of that baby could be proof of the sexual contact.
In all, she's been indicted on 23 charges.
So just seeing those charges on that indictment lends credibility to the victims' stories here.
And the allegations are shocking.
All of these victims, 23 counts.
That's why they had a whole family, man. A whole family, husband. Her husband was a cop. She's got kids. She's got everything to lose, ladies and gentlemen. Everything to lose. She's got a great career. She's an educator. You know, we trust her with our children. She has everything to lose. But once again, we're talking about psychosis here. We're talking about people who are nuts. Let's keep going.
Not just of the sexual nature, but also of intimidating a witness, coercing a witness, things like that. That is really bad, really bad.
With all these charges and the evidence that goes along with them, is there even a possible defense?
They are children, and there is no such thing as consensual sex with a child. It is rape. It does not matter your position of power.
To understand the case better and to predict where it's headed, we sat down with criminal defense attorney Serena Townsend.
And it just exemplifies how terrifying this woman, the fact that this woman had access to all of those children is. It's really scary.
The teacher in question is Alyssa McCommon, who once taught elementary school at...
What gets me with this case, and we're going to get into this, you know, we'll let them talk and we'll kind of get up to speed with it. But one thing that gets me with this case is that she's currently in prison, right? And her trial is starting in January. But before going to prison, she got a $25,000 bond. She only had to pay 10% of that to get out. Just 10% of that. If this was a man, and I'm not trying to make this a men versus women, but this is a serious lapse in our culture and our society, that for some reason, when women do heinous crimes like this, we don't take it as seriously as when men do it. And the psychological impact on the victim is the same. I know you got a lot of machismo men out there that be like, oh, I wish my teacher would have did something to me when I was a kid. You know, that's just stupid, toxic masculinity, machismo talking. A child should not be with an adult. A child is unable to consent. It's not fair to that kid. A child is easily manipulated. There's no equilibrium in a relationship. Like, there's no fairness. There's no, she is going to be the person controlling the relationship. She's going to be the person enjoying the gratification. She is the person in charge in that relationship. And if a guy would have done what she was accused of, his bond would have been $250,000, not $25,000. His bond would have been $2.5 million, not $25,000. And what ended up happening? She gets out on that minuscule bond. Remember, this is a middle-class woman whose husband is a police professional. She was a teacher. They've got a house. They've got cars. They've got 1,000 things that they could put up to a bail bondsman to get her out. They don't even have to give cash. They got a ton of things, a ton of collateral that they could use to get her out of prison. So she gets out of prison immediately, or jail rather. Prison is when you're sentenced. So she gets out of county jail immediately. And what does she do? She goes out there. She continues to abuse children. She continues to intimidate witnesses. She continues to do and further traumatize these kids, which resulted in her being rearrested. But would have it happened if it was a guy? No, because that guy would have been locked up. And we need to start across the board treating people. A predator is a predator. It doesn't matter what you have between your legs. A predator is a predator. And this woman is a predator, and she should have been dealt with as such when she first was arrested for doing what she did. Right out the gate, they should have treated her like they treated any other predator that victimizes and preys on children. But let's keep going.
Charger Academy in Covington, Tennessee. Law and Crime began following her case last September when McCommon was first arrested. Police began investigating McCommon in August 2023 after receiving a tip about an inappropriate relationship she was having with a former student. Initially, McCommon was charged with rape and booked into the Tipton County Jail on September 8th. Shortly after, she was released on $25,000 bond. But that was just the beginning. McCommon was arrested again days later after allegedly violating a no-contact order and reaching out to the victim. At that court appearance, prosecutors played snippets of a voicemail McCommon made, allegedly confessing she was pregnant with the boy's baby.
Damn.
I will never text you again. You will never hear from me again. Just please don't say anything. I'm under so much stress and I'm so scared all the time. I'm trying to tell you when it comes out. I'm looking like you. We don't have to talk anymore. Just please, God, tell me you're not going to say anything. I'll never speak to you again.
McCommon was arrested again.
Yeah, so from my understanding, it's confirmed that she's pregnant. It's confirmed. From my understanding, could be wrong. This is what I'm getting from my research on the internet and from articles that came out recently with the update that she is in fact pregnant with this child's baby. And these are the repercussions. This child will most likely be a father. And what then? Like, what are the parents of the victim supposed to do? Now that her case has gone viral and is being covered by media, the district attorney has now doubled down and they're adding charges and they found new victims and they want to go hard and they will send her to jail for all eternity. Yeah, I get that. Okay, great. I'm happy you're taking this seriously, right? But in the meantime, all right, so she's going to go to jail. So what about the child? First of all, in most states, that child is actually going to belong to the husband. In many states in America, if a woman has a child with a paramour, in this case a victim, or a cuckold, whatever you want to call it, right? And she's married, legally the husband is the father of the child until legally it's determined that he's not. But what's going to happen to the child? I'll tell you what's going to happen. Most likely the parents of that child, that victim, might have to adopt the child if they don't want that child to go into the system. And that also might be the case. It might be the case that that child might end up being put up for adoption and put into the system. This is just a tragedy all the way around. Let's keep going.
And this time, bond was revoked. So she was arrested back in September of last year, released on bond, and then arrested again for violating the conditions of that bond by reaching out to one of the survivors. What do you make of that?
We like to call that consciousness of guilt, right? So if you're reaching out to somebody to either try to coerce them to not move forward, I think one of the text messages said, you're going to regret this if you go forward. That's a threat. So now you're threatening the very victims, who are saying that you did these horrible things to them. It is a very bad thing to do that. I mean, it's literally a crime to violate an order of protection in that way,
Right.
and the conditions of your release. And so it's going to look very bad for her. That evidence might even be able to come in during the trial at hand, and it's going to make her look terrible. And the right thing was done after the fact, which is her bond was revoked, and now she's no longer able to communicate because she doesn't deserve to. She obviously didn't listen to the court's instruction.
Right. So 2 questions that are really good in the chat. The first one I'll do last. So we'll do the last question first. So Lori O'Neill wants to know how old the boys were. They were like around 12 years old. Now they're 15, but when the assault happened, they were 12 years old. There were multiple kids between the age of 12 and 13 who stated that they were a victim of her. The other question is by Erica B. She said, how do you keep your kids safe in a case like this? Well, I think the most important thing is to have a good communication avenue with your children. Like basically have your kids feel comfortable talking to you. That's the most important thing. And I think that's where most of us as parents, we fail. We like to correct our children and to make ourselves the dictators of our homes, but you have to make your children be able to trust that they can come talk to you. And that's something that I've tried to do. So I don't try and be a dictator of my home. I talk to my kids, I talk to my girls, I talk to my son, I take them out, I have one-on-one with them. When they tell me things, I don't get excited, I don't get upset, because that's one thing that makes kids like less likely to want to talk to you. If they come to you and they're like, hey, this happened to me, and you're like, what happened? Are you serious? No, then they're going to feel like they can't trust you, that I don't want mom or dad to overreact. It's just listen and give them advice. If it's something serious, you could take it very seriously, but you don't need to necessarily at that moment let them know how serious the situation is. You could talk about it with your partner, with your wife, with your husband, figure it out together, and then, take it from there. I'll share with you something that happened. I'm not going to do that because my kids actually, some of them sometimes watch my show, and I would never want them to feel betrayed by me sharing something that they came to me with, just to give an example. So scratch that, and I apologize. But I think that's what you need to do. You got to have an open dialogue with your kids. Your kids got to be willing to talk to you. And then you also have to talk to kids about these serious things when it's age appropriate. Okay. You don't need to talk about sex with your 8-year-old. Okay. I think 8-year-olds and under just need to know these are my private spaces. Nobody should be touching those private spaces without my permission or without the permission of my parents or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's age appropriate. When your kid is going through puberty and they're starting to develop, I think at that point, it is the right time to start saying, hey, listen, you might start having feelings. You might start seeing you may not have those feelings. You might start seeing some of your peers engaging in things that maybe you're not ready for, but let's talk about it. All right. Let's talk about kissing. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. And I think that's where a lot of parents also fail at, in that they're afraid to talk about these things. So who ends up talking about it? Well, you start learning from it on TV. They start learning about it on Netflix. They start learning about it on Hulu. They start learning about it with their friends in the group chats, on the WhatsApp group chats that they have, and then the other web platforms that they use to talk to each other, where they're all feeding each other crazy information. That's where they're going to learn these things if we don't talk to them about it. So if you talk to your 12 and your 13-year-old and you explain to them what is appropriate and what is not, if his teacher starts saying inappropriate things to him or her, they might, because nothing is absolute, they might be willing to come to you and say, hey, Dad, my teacher said I have a really nice butt and it made me uncomfortable. Was that appropriate? And now you know what you got to do. You know what you got to do. And then you know what? At the end of the day, maybe they may not come to you. No matter the best job you could possibly do as a parent, maybe it still won't come to you. But you know what you'll be able to say to yourself? I did the best I could do. I gave it my all. I made my child feel comfortable that they could come to me, and they still chose not to come to me. Hey, we got to deal with what we have, but I know I have peace of mind that I've done the best that I can do. I'd rather have that feeling than have the feeling of I shoulda, coulda, woulda. I'd rather be able to say I did the best that I could do. But let's keep going.
In March, McCommon was indicted on 23 charges. Here's how they break down. Rape of a child, 5 counts of aggravated statutory rape, 4 counts of sexual exploitation by electronic means, 4 counts of solicitation of a minor to commit aggravated statutory rape.
Wait, hold on. Before they finish this list, I got to say that she sure knows how to clean up, because she looks very pretty and decent in this picture. But in every other picture that we've seen with her, she looks like a hot mess. So she sure knows how to clean up. Let's keep going.
2 counts of statutory rape by an authority figure, 2 counts of coercion of a witness, 2 counts of aggravated stalking, violating the Child Protective Act, tampering with evidence, and harassment. At first, way back when, almost a year ago, we learned about one victim, but then, as you said, multiple have come forward, and now she's been indicted on 23 counts. That's a pretty large number. What do you make of that indictment?
Oh, that is a huge number. Typically in a sex crimes prosecution, you do see an indictment with some charges, usually pertaining to 1, maybe 2 victims. The fact that there's 23 counts in this indictment is very telling. First of all, the more victims that come forward and have a similar story, the more credibility that story is going to have, and the higher.
All right, pause it real quick. First of all, big shout out to Lucifer the Doberman, big supporter of the show, longtime supporter of the show. We appreciate Lucifer. Lucifer's such a cool person. Yeah, Lucifer is cool. You're cool in my book, Lucifer. You get a thumbs up. Big shout out to April H for coming through, showing love to the channel. Now, Laura O'Neill made a comment, and the reason why I want to highlight what she's saying is because there's one thing that I requested in the community section where I want to do an interview with, and somebody reached out to me. I'm going to reach out to them and see if I can get them on the show. And they said that if they're not able to come on the show, they'll direct me in the right direction. And that is a safe, sane nurse. If you don't know what a safe, sane nurse is, a safe, sane nurse is a nurse that conducts sexual assault examinations on victims, and they collect the evidence that we use to convict people. Like, they are our crime scene. Like, you don't send the crime scene people from CSI and all of that to a sexual assault survivor. You send a medical professional, a specially trained nurse or doctor. In most instances, it's going to be a nurse, but there are many doctors who are trained, and in some hospitals, the doctor will do it. And so I want to interview them. I just want to pick their brain. I just want to see how they view things from their lens as basically a first responder, just like us. Like, usually when I get to a call, I'm called by the hospital, and me and the safe, sane nurse are coming to the hospital at the same time to meet this victim. And we're literally doing our things around the same time, not at the same time, but around the same time. Sometimes we're kind of juggling for who goes first, because their examination sometimes takes over an hour, and I want to see that victim before they do their examination so that I can now go and start doing my investigation while that victim is getting their examination done. So sometimes we do butt heads just a little bit, but we have nothing but respect for each other. And I want to speak to a safe, sane nurse, and one has reached out. But in regards to Laura O'Neill, another individual I wanted to speak to is an advocate, a victim advocate. And I wanted to get their perspective from their lens, from their position, because a victim advocate, if you don't know what that is, they're specially trained people who are in the room with the victim. So as soon as they come to the hospital and they say, hey, I've been a victim of sexual assault, they will get a safe, sane nurse dispatched to them. And most times that nurse is not in that hospital. So they're coming from a different hospital or an agency to do that, because it's very expensive. Those nurses, they make a lot of money. So Many times they're on call or they work for regional and they have to travel there, but immediately they're assigned a victim advocate. And that advocate stays with them and supports them and is a kind, soft person that's with them as they go through this daunting process. And so I want to speak to a victim advocate and hear from their perspective how they feel about the process, what just pick their brain on just how they view things from their perspective. And so now I'm going to read out Laura's comment. And Laura, if you're a victim advocate and you're willing to come on the show and you'd like to reach out to me, please email me at strategiceyes with a Z. So it's a common spell of strategiceyes, but instead of EYES, it's EYEZ at gmail.com. You can find that in the chats. You can also find that on my main page for the YouTube channel and all that good stuff. But please do reach out if you're interested, and I'd love to have you on the show, or anybody else who is an advocate. You don't have to be an advocate for children, because I don't exclusively investigate children. I only investigate teenagers, 13 and up, and I investigate adults. There is a designated unit that deals with children 12 and under. I don't deal with 12 and under, so I deal with 13 and up. So you don't have to specifically be a child advocate, but you could be just a victim's advocate, period. And I'd love to talk to you. I want to bring these people to you guys because they're not always spoken about. I've never seen somebody interview a victim advocate or interview a safe, sane nurse. And they're heroes. They truly are. And I want to bring those people to the forefront, and I want to expose this sector, this part of the criminal justice system, even though they're not technically a part of us. Their work helps us bring justice to victims. So Laura O'Neill says, "Hey, Strategic Eyes, I've listened to once before, and you really seem to be a loving and moral dad. I'm a child advocate for sure. I'm a childhood trauma survivor. Went no contact from fam of origin. I hear you. I'm sorry that that happened to you." I don't know when you say if you're a child advocate, it's just like you just advocate for children in your personal life, or if you're a professional advocate. But I want to speak to a professional advocate. And so please do, whoever, reach out to me. Let's get in contact. I don't need a lot of your time. It's not live either. We'll pre-record the interview. Just a couple of questions. Whatever you're not comfortable with, we're not going to broach. I'm not interviewing Biden or Trump. I'm not, Walter Cronkite. I'm just going to ask just basic questions on how you feel and your experience. How do you think things could be better, etc. That's just it. All right. Anyway, let's keep going.
Probability of guilt will, occur in a case like that. So just seeing those charges on that indictment lends credibility to the victim's stories here. And it just exemplifies how terrifying the fact that this woman had access to all of those children is. It's really scary. It's not a situation where she could even claim that she messed up, which is really not an excuse anyway. But sometimes there's mitigation when there's one victim and there's, extenuating circumstances, I guess. I don't know how there could be extenuating circumstances in a child rape case, honestly, but where there's one victim, perhaps there's reasonable doubt for one reason or another, but all of these victims, 23 counts, not just of the sexual nature, but also of intimidating a witness, coercing a witness, things like that. That is really bad, really bad. I had originally seen, I guess, a headline, and I thought that perhaps there was one victim, and it sounds like she had multiple victims here in a pattern of sexual assaults and rape. So really,
now, the funny thing is, her attorney is actually a family friend, and she taught his son. And before he took the case, he had to ask his son, like, "Yo, did she do anything to you before I represent this lady?" He was like, "Nah, man, she was a really awesome teacher." So that was pretty interesting. And, it's also indicative of these small towns where everybody kind of knows each other. But this lady is definitely a predator. And she has been victimizing people for a very long time. And because of that social stigma of boys, I'm pretty sure there's just a plethora of young men who will not come forward due to embarrassment or due to the fact that they think they lucked out. Like, oh, my God, I got this sexual act from this older lady. I'm the man. But in actuality, you're not cool. You're a victim. This should not have happened to you at 12, 13 years old. This is shameful. And this lady needs to pay, and it looks like she will pay. But let's keep going.
Horrifying.
Let's pause this story for a second to thank our sponsor.
All right, so we're gonna fast forward real quick. All right.
Students ages 10 to 12. There were at least a dozen, if not more. So to me, it almost sounds like grooming based on the aspects of the case that I know. Does it sound like grooming to you?
Absolutely. And I actually found it very telling that part of the statement that was put out by somebody, police or law enforcement, saying that her activities were not taking place on campus, that all of these, sexual activities and texting and things of that nature happened outside of school. To me, that's an unacceptable way to frame this because there's no way in my mind that you could separate the fact that she was their teacher and the fact that she was clearly grooming them while being their teacher and the
Right. She was like linking up with them on video game sites. You know, this grown woman is like forcing herself to play Roblox so that she can have access to these kids. You know, you know you're a predator when you're trying to meet your prey where they gather, right? Like it's not like by happenstance that she finds one of these kids in the street and exchange numbers with them, which is totally inappropriate. No, she's out there actively hunting for them. She's going on kid video game websites where she knows her students congregate, and then she's talking dirty to them. She's sending them nudie pictures. She's messing with their young hormones, and then she's taking advantage of them sexually. It's horrible. It's horrible. She should be ashamed of herself. She has children of her own. She has a husband of her own. Like, what is a 12-year-old going to do for you? How do you get gratification for being with a 12-year-old? This is just ridiculous.
eventual acts that she took against them. So to me, this happened on school, out of school, and this was a pattern that was going on 24/7 in my mind.
From the start, McCommon's case drew parallels to the case of Mary Kay Letourneau, a sixth grade teacher out of Seattle who was charged with second-degree rape. The story captivated the nation as Letourneau eventually had 2 children with her former student, Villy Falau. The pair got married after she served prison time.
Yeah, but you know what? I saw an interview with them, and this guy, he looked like he was a hostage. And this is a grown man now. He's like in his 30s. And he looked miserable. Like she literally stole his life. Like he looked so miserable in this interview. And she was shutting him up and correcting him. Did anybody see that video? You know what? I'm going to pull that video up. Aki, can you find that video, the Mary Kay interview, the recent one? So we could pull that one up and play it. Find that if you can, Aki, and send that over to me. Unbelievable. Crazy. But yeah, I mean, you saw that power dynamic. Even when he became a full-fledged adult, she still had that dynamic over him, that power, that control over him. It was the most telling interview I've ever seen in my life. Most telling. And I think she was dying at the time. Erica B said she passed away. At the time of that interview, she was alive, but she had cancer and stuff like that. But yeah, wow. Let's keep going.
Time and spent more than 2 decades together. But Townsend says there are some major differences in McCommon's case. When we're looking at history of cases like this, the first one that pops into my head is always Mary Kay Letourneau from way back when in Seattle. I believe it was the 90s, and she claimed that she was in love with the victim and eventually married him. So I know that happens from time to time, that defendants would claim that they're in love with the victim, or survivor rather. But in this case, there's more than a dozen survivors. So that's not something that she could claim, right?
I cannot imagine that would fly. First of all, we're not in the 90s anymore. As you and I both know, the world has changed since then. Whether or not that would have flown in the 90s, I don't see that flying these days. I don't think anybody would be okay with that. Plus, it really doesn't matter if you were in love with either one or multiple children. They are children, and there is no such thing as consensual sex with a child. It is rape. It does not matter your position of power, the fact that you are the age that you are, and who you are to these children as somebody who's supposed to be a caring educator, rather than a grooming, manipulative, sexual predator. None of that is going to matter. It would be no defense, even if it were to be believed.
I want to bring in Mary Kay. I want to bring that in. Let me take this off real quick. Sorry. Take that off. Bring it back to me. Aki sent it to me. Great job, Aki. I want to go ahead and pull this up real quick. My apologies, guys. First of all, that's 20 minutes. We're not going to play the entire 20 minutes. I'm definitely not jacking all of their content. They're really good about not copywriting YouTubers, but we're not going to sit here and watch all 20 minutes of them kind of just basically going over the case.
Even
But
now, some two.
they brought up Mary Kay, and I want to go ahead and I want to play this video because this is just telling, guys. So here's Mary Kay, right? So this was like the big interview that they did where it was supposed to prove to the rest of us that this was a totally... Someone says, can you boost your sound up? It's always hard to hear your channel. Just found you, but want to hear you. Thank you. You know, we've been boosting this sound for a long time. I hear you. I'm in no way trying to not give you what you need so you can hear me comfortably, but we have been boosting this sound for a while, and it doesn't ever seem to be enough. So I'm gonna try again before we putting the gain up even more. So guys, please let me know if you can hear me better. The gain is really high now. Aki says sounds good to me. I put the gain up really high, so please let me know if it doesn't distort my voice or something like that. But definitely, Mullah Deck, I appreciate you for coming through and trying to support my channel. I want to make sure that you can hear me. Now, if everybody's saying that I sound good, I got New York City Boomer Babe say I sound good. Yeah, a lot of people saying it's good. So I did make an adjustment after you said something, Mullah Deck. So I did make an adjustment, but if you still can't hear me, then I can't do anything else for you. You might have to find a different way of listening to it. Maybe it's through headphones or something to that effect. But appreciate you guys. All right, so this was supposed to be their interview that was going to prove to everybody that their relationship was great, it was fine, and that, you know, this was a match made in heaven, and we all got it wrong, and we should have never have gotten mad when we found out that she was involved with him. All right, so okay, let's do it.
2 decades later, you can't help but ask, what was she thinking? What was it that drove schoolteacher Mary Kay Letourneau to begin a secret affair with her 12-year-old student, Vili Falau? Mary...
That's the same age that Alyssa McCommon's was preying on, 12 and 13-year-olds. So they have a lot in common, more common than not, but let's keep going.
You know, what you might call...
All right, so listen to this interaction here. Listen to this interaction. I just adjusted the volume again. I think it was a little bit too high because I was clipping in the red. Now it's like in the orange, which is supposed to be very loud, but not super, super loud. So let me know if I screwed up by touching it, all right? But listen to this interaction.
This relationship, it certainly hasn't been fleeting. How long have you both been married for now?
Yeah, I think this year was 13. Yeah, 13, and then 2005, 6, 7. Okay, yeah.
About 13 years.
13
I mean,
plus, yeah.
That's quite incredible. Has that time gone quickly, slowly?
Time kind of just really flies by, actually. Yeah. And you're busy every day, so.
Well, you're busy. You're busy, very, very busy being parents.
Yeah.
I think those years were so, when you're moving through the school years, those went really fast, it seems. I'm like, oh my goodness, weren't they just 6 and 8? Just, I'm like, whoa. And that's what I tell parents, like, it's going to go fast. And it's like, every day matters. And because we have friends with children that were once our children's age in grade school. And
look at this guy. He's like a hostage. Don't even look at her. She's a freaking weirdo. She's a weirdo. Sassy Pants says she looks gross. Your words, not mine. But don't even look at her. Look at her victim. And I'm not making fun of her victim. This is serious stuff. She stole this man's childhood. He is a victim. He's not foolish. He's not a bad person. No, there's nothing bad to say about him. I'm just telling you about my observations of how he looks. He looks like he's a hostage. He looks like he's been traumatized, indoctrinated. He looks like he is caught under her spell because she infiltrated his life at an early age and disrupted his development, disrupted his ability to create his own personality, unshaped, untainted by her evil whims. But look at this guy. It looks like he's at the point where he's kind of getting over it. Let's keep watching.
Middle school, high school, And now both of our daughters are graduated recently. And it just, especially high school, it seemed to go by very quickly. There were so many involvements, there were activities, and you're just like staying on it, uniforms for this.
She won't even let him talk.
And going from this activity to this activity, and here comes the homecomings, the proms, and it just keeps going and fast. And all of a sudden, what?
Look at him. Just look at him.
All of a sudden
They're gone.
No,
Well,
really.
not gone.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. You're on the cusp of a big life event as parents. Your youngest is preparing to do the unthinkable and move out, Billy. How are you coping?
It's natural, I guess. I hear like a lot of people, a lot of girls who turn 18, they kind of just leave the nest. And then if you're a guy, you kind of stay in a little longer.
Oh, I think the opposite.
And that's just what I heard.
Oh, I think the opposite. But yeah, our daughter was college bound, and now she has a different idea, and so we have to be patient with that. Mm-hmm. So she was always our youngest. We're going to be patient with that.
I know I was
She
out
wants
when
to
I was
take
16, so.
16?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, guys are a little bit different. A lot of the guys I know, they hang in longer because they get the free rent, you know. But guys are very basic like that.
I
Why not?
see.
You get free meal.
I see where
free
you're.
rent.
I see where you're both coming from. All right.
And girls, they're a little more independent. A lot of the girls that I knew growing up, they were out of their house when they were 18.
What girls did you know? You was dealing with this old lady.
Yeah.
Well, give me a sense, Philly, if you could, of your upbringing, your childhood.
Okay.
You come
This is interesting. Let's listen to
from, fair to say, a very big family.
Yeah. My dad was married 5 times, and there's a total of 18 of us siblings.
Now check this out. Listen to his story. This is how these predators get to infiltrate into these children's lives. He grew up in a very chaotic home life. He grew up in a house where his father was constantly bringing new women into the home. It's detrimental if your father's doing it. It's just as detrimental if your mother's doing it. So he's in an unstable household. And also his father is fathering so many children. Shame on his dad, by the way. I don't know him, but shame on his dad. Right? I'm sure he's passed by now. If not, God bless him. He's still alive. But you have 18 children. What time do you have to love and to nourish and to teach this child right here? So what ends up happening? You start looking for that love in different places. You start looking for that attention and affection in the wrong places. And that wrong place could be a gang, but it could also end up being a disgusting teacher who wants to violate your body. Big shout out to K9 Dream Dog, who just took advantage of the Strategic Eyes membership. Thank you so much for joining and becoming a member of the Strategic Eyes Show. Appreciate you. So just listen to his story. You want to know how this stuff happens? You want to know how we can prevent these things? By not raising children to have stories like the story he's laying out right now. It's a very sad story listening to this.
We didn't grow up all together. I grew up with my 4 full-blooded siblings. I eventually met the rest of them when growing up. I still have more to meet, but yeah.
That's sort of a crazy upbringing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on at Christmas or around the family dinner table.
It just stays simple. I mean, not everyone gets a Christmas gift, but just close relatives,
Yeah, Mary, what about you? What about your background and your upbringing? Tell me a bit about your family.
All right. So
I want to see if I want to skip to a part where it's kind of like a part where she says something really just out the box, really crazy. I want to go because it looks like they did a lot of chapters on this, which is awesome. Youngest are preparing, blah blah blah. Let me see all, but they list this up. View all. Is that gonna work? Is it working? I don't know. Let's see here. You've been bringing. When did you first meet Lily? What attracted you to teaching? What made you a good teacher? When did you realize When did this morph? What did Mary say? You know what? Let's go here. The laws have changed. Let's go
Yes,
here.
it was summer school, but it was school, it was a class in the summer.
Let me ask you, Villy, in a different way. At what point did this morph, I guess, from teacher and former student to boyfriend and girlfriend?
Just a friendship, really. And then during summertime, you know, things just got a little closer, and you know, there was some I don't even know how to say it, dramatic stuff going on, drama.
Really? What?
There was plenty of dramatic stuff going on.
I don't know, there was a lot of things that kind of just led to us kind of connecting on a deeper level. And then it got even more wild, crazy once the police found out and her husband found out. And
I think we, boyfriend, girlfriend. And that's why, I guess that's what there wasn't a teacher, well, when you consider we were in the same college, we both took an art class at the same college. And I think it felt really great. I'm just saying it felt great because we were so close as.
This lady's nuts, man. She sounds like any predator I've ever interviewed, and I've interviewed thousands of predators, you know, throughout the course of my entire career, especially when I worked in a prison system. She sounds no different than any delusional predator I have ever heard about. I'm sorry we kind of went away from that other teacher. We covered everything we could cover on that one. Her next court case is I think she's starting trial in January of 2025. I'm sorry. This is just so interesting, though, because we actually get to see and talk to a child predator. We get to see and talk to a hebephile. So this is just, to me, this is more intriguing, and I hate to I kind of hijack the show, but I don't know. I go with it where the facts lead me, and this is compelling, man. Let's keep going.
We were close as friends, and then just to not be his teacher in any capacity, and to be friends, and to be working on the same projects in just on the same level.
It's best not to argue. It's best not to argue, Villy. This is my experience.
No, it's my husband.
Yeah, so I mean, this interviewer is a douchebag, because I get it. You want to make it a fluff interview, or why she would have never agreed to it. I know what's happening behind the scenes. I get it. If they didn't agree that this was going to be an opportunity for them to tell their story, and it's going to be a little bit of a fluff piece or whatever, she would not sit down for this interview. But that's not necessary what this guy's saying. Like, he's talking to two people who are on equal footing. You can't forget that you're talking to a victim of a sex crime here. All right. Oh, it's best not, in my experience, it's best not to. No, let them bicker. Let's see the true dynamic of their relationship, not just the dynamic that they want us to see on this publication, this interview, to make us think that everything's okay. And look, it worked out. It's not a big deal. No, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because she stole this young boy's life and future away, and she made it the future she wanted. 2 kids, married to him. That's not the future he wanted. He doesn't want to go to bed with Skeletor every day. This man is in his prime. He's a decent looking Southeast Asian looking dude. He could have got a beautiful woman his age, who would probably still be around right now helping him raise these 2 kids. They're adults now, but be there for those 2 kids. This woman died from old age, basically. She literally died from old age on the guy. She got a cancer that usually kills old people because she's old. That's messed up, man. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
When Mary did Villy make it clear to you that he was interested in you physically, sexually, I guess? Can you remember that moment? You must.
And first of all, he's asking that question to her, but how do you know that she's not the one that came on to him? Once again, the interviewer is an idiot, because how are you assuming that this 12-year-old is the one that came on to this 30-something-year-old woman? How are you assuming that it wasn't reverse? But let's see how he answers the question. I don't know. I saw this a long time ago. I certainly don't remember how he answered the question. So we're gonna figure it out together.
Remember that moment?
I just remember, yes, there was one point, and I said, put that away. I just meant the idea. And there's a story about that. I don't know how much time we have, but.
How did that idea manifest, Philly? What did you say?
I don't know. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh,
He said he doesn't want to talk about it. He's not comfortable because it's probably a lie. Because she probably told him, to make me look good, you have to say that you're the one who came on to me. But the truth is, she's probably the one that came on to him. And so that's why he doesn't want to talk about it, because he doesn't want to go on a record for all eternity to say that he's the one who came on to her. He doesn't know if he's going to ever have an opportunity to do a interview or anything like that in the future. There's no guarantee for that, you know? And sometimes people just don't want to lie for you. So let's just not cover it. He says he don't want to talk about it. What did she do? She starts talking about it.
I appreciated, this is the wrong word, but there was.
Almost everything that's come out of her mouth is a lie. He's just along for the ride. He's along for the ride. At this point, they knew that she had terminal cancer and she was dying. I don't think it really made any sense for him to leave her at this point, knowing that she wasn't going to be of this world long. He's just along for the ride. Do you see any love in this guy's eyes as he's sitting here next to this woman? Every time he speaks, she looks at him with loving eyes or obsessive eyes. I don't know if you can call what she feels love, considering that she violated a child. But, you look at him and it's not reciprocated. And he's staring off into the distance. And, he's processing what she's saying. And it's like at times he's looking at her like, that's bull crap. Yeah, that's bull crap. Yeah, that's not true either. Somebody in the chat said this is a therapist's dream. Absolutely. This should be studied in college. They should write dissertations off of this interview. We should be using this interview to inform us on how to profile people like her and hopefully stop future victims from being victimized. This is a gold mine. Very rarely do we get the insight that we're getting from this interview and the impact that these actions of these predators have on their victims. Because this man's a victim. You could see it in his eyes. Let's keep going.
Did it feel like love to you back then, Billy?
Yeah. For anyone, yeah. It's what you would, I don't know, for me, yeah.
Big shout out to April Hansen. She says he is traumatized. She took advantage of him at a very young age. And it's so sad that when he was 12, he had to become a father. It's very, very good comment. Appreciate you for sharing that. Let's listen to what he has to say.
For anybody, first time.
Then, Billy?
Yeah. For anyone, yeah. It's what you would, I don't know, for me, yeah. For anybody, first time, figure out what love is for the first time. That's all you know. So for what I know that it was back then, yeah, I would say that was real love.
I'm trying to take a couple of steps back to when you first.
He said, what I know about back then, I would say is real love. What about now? Let's keep going.
Made that brave decision to say something to Mary. Was it initially on a dare or, in front of your mates?
Yeah, it was actually, it started off that way with trying to get closer to her. Well, that was the reason.
Of which I knew nothing about.
Yeah, so that's how her and I started talking, was because there was that bet. And then,
thank God I actually went to school with professional, non-predator teachers, so that when I was young and my hormones was kind of out of whack because I'm a little kid growing up, and I write a card to my teacher and say, you're beautiful. They would laugh it off and say, yes, thank you, but that's not appropriate, because they understood that they had a job to do, which is to keep me safe and help socialize me correctly so I grow up to be a good human being and give back to society, rather than take advantage of this child like she did and destroy his life by giving him 2 children that he shouldn't have had, because he should have been playing in a sandbox and preparing for his future. rather than being a dad. You guys understand, while she was in prison, she had these babies. Those babies were given to his family. He raised those babies while he was a teenager, while she's in prison. She destroyed his life. Let's keep going.
And, you know, later down the road in the relationship, kind of just, the bet just wasn't even, it hadn't even crossed my mind anymore, so.
Well, so one thing, and I think this is an answer to your question. It was...
So you see how she demeaned him and then he looked down? Because he's kind of trying to express himself. He may not be the most articulate person, or he may not just be good with his emotions, because there's so much different emotions that's swirling inside of his mind and body and soul, considering this disgusting relationship that he's in. What did she do? Oh, well, let me give you an answer to the question, because this guy is a dope. He couldn't answer your question. She just demeaned him in front of this interviewer. It's shameful. So let's listen to what she has to say then.
And I still think about this moment, and still, because I remember, well, I'm just saying, every time I think about this moment, you remember when you came to me right? You said, wait, and this was when it was a very, very end of the school year.
And this man just said he doesn't want to talk about this. But she has to let the world know that she wasn't the one that came after him first. This is the most important thing to her. This is her legacy. It's more important than him. It's more important than his feelings. Remember, he said he didn't want to talk about it. She's still talking about it. She's still blaming the 12-year-old boy he was for coming on to her, the 30-something-year-old teacher who was supposed to be protecting him and nurturing him. She still needs to blame him. This is the most important thing to this woman right now.
And I don't even think school was really, I think it was basically done. Things were closing up. But I was on my way out the door, and he said, wait a minute. And he said, how old do you think you're going to be when you die? And I said, I was really excited because I'm going to talk about my grandmother, right? And I know I just said my mom's going to live till 100, but my grandmother, which is not even her mother, my father's mother, she really did live to 103. And so I was really excited because he had never asked about my grandmother or any, thing maybe beyond my parents. And I said, well, I'm going to at least be 100 because my grandmother right now is 100. And I'm most like her. And I started talking about how she still teaches piano, and she was 100, right? And I was really excited inside that he was interested in, I don't know. I was excited to talk about my grandmother, and he cut me off, and he said, well, if you're going to be 100, then I'm going to be 80 because I'm not living another day in this world without you.
Aww.
And I just was like,
It's a pretty romantic thing for a teenage boy to say.
So romantic. I don't believe that crap one bit.
But at the time, we were just close.
I don't believe that one bit. This guy could barely get a sentence out. And you expect us to believe he's Mr. Don Juan who planned that out. He planned out oh my gosh, like he's so come on, he's not that romantic. No 12-year-old is that sophisticated. I'm sorry.
Close. And I was, a little tiny bit of me was like, you just cut me off. I was talking about my grandmother. And I mean, if someone asked you to talk about your grandmother, well, I guess you didn't really ask me. I thought it was an opening to talk about my grandmother, which I was proud to talk about.
If you extrapolate the age forward like that, it makes it sound better, right? But, back then, 34 and 13, did you have a sense that what you were doing wasn't right?
Hearing him say...
Putting the grandmother aside at just
80,
the age.
80 and 100. Well...
What about back then, though, 34 and 13?
Good question.
I was just thinking about 80 and 100, if you want to know the truth.
No, a part of you was thinking about, part of you must have been thinking, Mary. You, by all accounts, everyone in Des Moines says you're one of the best teachers going around, a fierce intellect. You must have known, such a smart woman, that something wasn't right about what was going on at that age.
Yep.
Well, just know that there wasn't any thought or any idea that something was going to happen. So no, there wasn't a thought about, we were just, even when he said 80 and 100, I was just thinking, you're so right, I don't want to live another day without you either.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
No, it wasn't a thought of, oh, and we're gonna have children, and there wasn't a thought like that. It was that type of a closeness that, you're so right. I don't want to live another day without you either.
What's fascinating about your relationship is that it has endured. You know, that separates it from anything else that might go in the what people would call teacher-student space. But I think what I'm trying to get at...
This lady she's nuts, man. She's nuts. Well, let her finish her sentence, and then we're done. Jesus Christ.
Not called little boys, and they get a life sentence. So when you put it in that perspective, so it's like, which angle do you want to come at?
I want to come at it from the angle. No, I'll tell you.
Do you want to know? Are you hearing what I'm saying?
I'm hearing what you're saying, but I want to come at it from this angle. As a 34-year-old woman, did you have any philosophical problems, moral problems, with entertaining the idea of a relationship with a 13-year-old boy?
I love that question. The first great question he's asked all interview. Let's see how she responds to it.
Well, I wasn't entertaining the idea, and that's my point.
But you clearly...
All right, so she deflects by saying, no, I wasn't thinking about it, even though the statement she made before that was, well, I wasn't thinking about his age. The only thing I was thinking about was 180. The year 180, he said he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life living without her. So you're contradicting yourself, because before this you're saying, well, I didn't care about his age. I wanted him at that moment because he made this Don Juan statement to me, right? And now you're saying, well, I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't on my mind to be with him. You got to make it make sense. Donna Van Dyke is now a member of Strategiceyes family. Thank you so much for joining the membership. Appreciate you. You're awesome. You're amazing. Thank you for supporting the channel and joining the family. Let's keep going.
Were.
Eventually, we both.
And did you have any pause at the time, thinking, Mary, stay away from him, this isn't right?
What I thought is, he doesn't understand that I have 4 children and I have responsibilities.
So you just decided to just throw those responsibilities away and run away with him. He didn't understand it, and rather than you help him understand why it's inappropriate, you just threw all reason away and said, screw it, I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to be with this little boy and start a brand new family with him and destroy the rest of his life. Make it make sense.
That's the only thing. And you have to keep in mind that now...
By the way, Zozo Bob, she's not 34 now. She was 34 at the time. This man is in his 30s. She's like 60 right now. All right. And those kids that she had with him, they're in their 20s. All right. So she's old now. She's like not 60, but she's like 50 something at the time of this recording or something like that. So she's not 34. When this happened, she was 34 and he was just 12 years old. Let's keep going.
It's 20 years ago, and sure, in the last 10 years, all across the world, the laws have changed, and everybody, and you'll even see, ever since Mary Letourneau, but see, that was 20 years ago. Now everybody has their eyes open and is aware. Surely, I hope every teacher, and forget about even the teacher part, I would hope that every adult that's a female, regardless of being a teacher, would know, after my situation, pay attention. Because there are laws. You might think when you're in a world, we were close, and no, we weren't thinking about those things. No, I wasn't. There were no laws back that anybody, there were no situations.
What is she talking about? Statutory law's been around for a gajillion years. There were laws. That's why she was convicted of being with this child. So she's acting like there was like we were living in like the medieval ages with like there's just no laws and people are marrying 8-year-olds and they're all dying due to childbirth. People understand why we made these laws, why we decided that adults shouldn't be with children. It's simple. Because for thousands of years in human history, they didn't have these laws. And people would marry off their young children, you know, and they'd get married at 10, 11, 12, and 8 years old and stuff like that. You know what had happened? They would die. They would die during the wedding night. They would die giving birth to children because they weren't physically ready for that type of interaction, because it was unnatural. They weren't supposed to do those things. So, you know what we decided as humankind? We said, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do that to our kids. Maybe we shouldn't condemn our daughters to a painful death by marrying them off to a 60-year-old guy. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should wait until they're physically able and mentally able to engage in these type of adult activities, and we should have laws that protect them from being victimized. These laws were in place, so I don't know where this super intelligent teacher was whose job it was to know these laws, because she's a mandated reporter. Even 20 years ago, they had mandated reporting. I don't know where she was. What universe did she exist in that she thought, oh, now, after my case, I hope they understand the laws and they don't make the mistakes I made? That's basically what she's saying in a very mealy-mouthed way. But in all actuality, those laws existed, and she was convicted under those laws. And when she did what she did, nobody was surprised. Nobody was shocked that she was being charged. People were happy and people were disgusted in her conduct, because even 20 years ago, people did not tolerate her actions. Her actions were viewed as predatory and disgusting. Let's keep going. And we're ending it soon.
There were laws. There were laws, Mary.
Oh,
the law
there
was
weren't.
statutory rape.
For males. And if you look,
There we go. He said there were laws for statutory rape. And she said for males, I never seen a law in my life that says this law is only for men. This law is only for women. You don't make laws like that. You make laws for people, not for genders.
look historically, it was a male only. And then the laws changed when equality. Let's go, Matt, on this. You want to? Because I'm ready.
Sure.
Okay, so the Equal Rights Amendments from state to state here in the United States, and it even happened over in Australia, New Zealand, and what's called the Equal Rights Amendment. And what they did is they gender neutraled the laws. Prior to that, it was male only. It was a male only statutory rape. So when did somebody get on the news and say, hello world, or hello New Zealand, hello, or I don't know how you do your states over there, but if they're in states, nobody got on, nobody did a press release here in the state of Washington or in California where I was from and said, we have now changed the laws. It is no longer gender, it is no.
You guys hear this crap? You guys hear this nonsense this lady's saying? I just let her keep going.
No longer gender specific, a male only. When I grew up, sure, as a teenager, I knew that, oh, if that male, the males knew, because it was a well-known thing, because a lot of dads out there were saying, stay away from the daughters here in this house, because I'll get a shotgun out, because you're older, and I can go to the police, and it would be called statutory rape. I don't care if you love my daughter. You're 26, you're 30, whatever you are, and my daughter's only 16, 13, 15, whatever. It was a very well-known, statutory rape was. It was very well known. It didn't matter if there was love. It didn't matter if it was consensual. And that word is there. Statutory, meaning it doesn't matter if there's consent. Male only, and it's not until, and if you can look all across any kind of scholastic.
Yeah, man, that cancer really got in her brain, man. Turned her shit to mush. Sorry for cursing, but Jesus, just hearing this mealy mouth bull crap from this lady is making me just nauseous. Let her finish her
Reading
thought.
on this,
We'll get
it
out of
goes
here.
historically, and my name will even be there, not until my situation in the law, the conflict in the law, did.
So are you saying there was confusion about the law at that time, or that you didn't understand
Nobody
the law?
knew it. Who knew it? Who knew it?
But you knew.
No.
Mary, come on, you knew that it was not right, even if it wasn't black and
Maybe
white.
morally.
If you didn't have
No,
the
maybe
statutory
morally.
papers there,
Morally.
you knew.
Morally, is that's what you're saying? Morally.
No, I'm saying morally and legally.
Not
Right, because he knows that the law at that time was neutral and applied to everybody. So it's not just morally, which he would then concede that she's right. He's standing his ground, which is important, and saying, no, it's not just morally. It's morally and legally. You were wrong at the time, period. And you know what? The law is made by man, of course, right? And the law is basically based off of our morality, our collective morality. So just morally, all right, so we could just leave the law out of it. Just morally, she knew what she did was wrong. Morally, she was wrong. Morally, she knew she was a teacher. Her job was to guide those kids and to nourish those kids' intellect, not to destroy their future and physically, sexually assault them. She knew she was wrong morally, but she won't even concede. Or maybe she is egging to concede the morality of it, but not the legality of it. I don't know. Let's see.
the legally part, no.
But you are such a smart person.
One, I'd never even been in a courtroom. Yes, I am a smart person, but I'm like hyper-focused in my areas.
So you're saying, Matt, I'm a smart person, I'm revered as a teacher, but I just didn't know it wasn't right as a 34-year-old to be with a 13-year-old? Sorry, I just didn't know.
Not in a criminal sense.
Right, and if this some 34-year-old man was involved with her 12-year-old kid, she'd have been the first one calling 911. If she found out that a 34-year-old man was having intercourse with her kid, she'd be the first one trying to lock that guy up for the rest of his life, as she should have as a responsible parent. But in her eyes, it's okay for her to do that to somebody else's kid. Shame on this lady. Shame on you. You are where you need to be. The law, the universe, God has judged you. And you are continuing to be judged in the afterlife. This lady is a horrible person.
But I thought, first of all, you just said teacher again. And
Well, you were his teacher in second grade.
once upon a time. Yeah, okay, you keep going back to that.
Not at the same. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
happened then. I'm
Yeah.
saying at one point you were his teacher. Look, I'm not trying to get into semantics over that. I'm just trying to accept. In the end, you stood up in court and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of child rape.
To some elements.
2 counts of child rape.
Well, the only thing that title is a deterrent, and I'm glad it's there as a deterrent. Now I understand the laws in general.
Yeah, but I don't
and
want to talk about the
title.
logistics of the law, Mary. I mean, you stood up and said, yes, I did it. I did something wrong.
Yeah.
No, I fit the elements
Yeah.
that equal guilty to the elements, and we don't have to. If you really want to go into like the. Let's see, where do we want to go on
I
this?
just want to see. I'm trying to get a sense of whether you think you did anything wrong
At the time.
at the time and now.
Okay, I want you to also respect one thing. We're married. This is.
I appreciate
my
that.
husband. Okay, so when you, and we're not, like, between us, we know what happened at the time, and it's entirely not appropriate to talk about, because we know.
Should we move on to
We
the next
know.
question?
No, I'll just.
But isn't it a fair question?
Whoa, see? Can we move on to the next question? And she's like, no, we're not moving on because I got to win this. This dude is being, can you imagine this guy living with this woman, which he is, or which he was rather when she was alive? You imagine him living with this woman? You think he ever won an argument? Do you think this guy ever won an argument? Like, she's forever his teacher. She talks like she's still a teacher. She was talking down to this guy. He said, well, can we move on to the next question? He's trying to help her because she looks horrible. She looks terrible in how she's presenting herself. And she's like, no, we're not moving on to the next question.
I'll ask you too, Villy, because I don't want to disrespect
Okay,
you guys.
I will say.
Is it a fair question to ask? Is it a fair question to ask you both whether you think at the time Mary, you were doing anything wrong?
If you knew the personal situation with us, and on that side, I wanted everything to go away. I am like a big peacemaker, and I thought, you know what? We're not going to have this go into a trial because that's drama.
She's definitely a narcissist. I agree with you 100%. Missy Miss, who's a Strategic Eyes member, she's definitely a narcissist.
Brings in my father, it brings in his family, and no matter what personally happened between us, that as far as those moments that changed everything, in those moments.
The moments.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
We know.
We know those moments. Guys, please hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel already. And big shout out to everybody who became a Strategic Eyes membership. Once again, the lowest tier is 99 cents. The lowest tier is 99 cents. So please support the channel if you can. Let's keep going.
And the fact that I decided that I, as the adult, was going to make this go away, and we would all get on with our lives, and that...
Look at him. Look at him looking down. Look at him. He is so stressed out with this conversation. This man is getting grays in his hair. That's how old he is. This woman has dominated his life, his entire life. Big shout out to David. David says, why is she even do this interview? Her narcissism made her do the interview. Exactly what Missy Miss said. Her narcissism made her do the interview. She's a narcissist. She had to prove to the world that she's not really guilty of what she pled guilty for. And that's why she's sitting here when nobody would remember Mary Kay. Mary Kay Turner, nobody will remember her. She's old, she has kids, she's dying of cancer. Nobody would have cared about her, nobody would remember her. She had to put herself in the spotlight to set the record straight before she leave this world. That's what this is all about. Big shout out to Aki for gifting 1 Strategic Eyes membership to Zozo Bob. Looks like they got it. Zozo Bob is now a Strategic Eyes member as well as a moderator, and we appreciate the hard work that both of you guys do moderating the show along with David and Erica B. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Let's keep going.
I would get back and not even get back, resume. Like, I've got some responsibilities to some children and a marriage to resolve. And for the best of everybody, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stand up and this is going to just, the least amount of drama, the least amount of harm.
Mary, I can't accept that. This goes to the heart of the whole story for me. When you say the best for everybody, what I'm trying to ask is whether it was the best for Billy at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a 13-year-old boy. He had a big decision to make. Was it the best for everybody, Billy?
To continue it?
You're saying you made a big adult choice, Mary. And I'm not trying to turn this into an adversarial interview. I'm trying to say, when you say you made a big adult choice and made the decision that was best for everyone, was it best for Billy?
Oh, you mean,
to
should I
pursue
have...
this?
Okay, so should I have...
If you would appreciate it, I just want to let Billy speak. Can you answer that question, Billy?
Let's clarify the question, though.
You...
Should I have said not guilty and brought him to trial?
You see, he can't speak. Even he's like, I want to ask Billy the question, and he starts smiling. That's the face of I can't win. That's the face I can't win. I have no power here. I can't win. She is in total control of this situation. Just like Stephen Stearns was in total control of that situation over Maddie. Maddie was afraid to tell people what happened to her. Maddie went before a therapist and didn't tell a therapist what happened to her. Maddie went before her friends, didn't tell her friends what was happening to her. Now we have the proof. We see just what Maddie was going through. This is what these predators do. They control you. They control every aspect of your life. They enslave you to their whims. She has enslaved this man up to that moment. She is now free. He is a free man because she's in the grave. But for his entire life while she lived, he was enslaved by this woman, by this predator. $5 super chat from Lisa Michelle. Thank you so much. Not only did she give me a super chat, but she's also a Strategic Eyes member. I appreciate it. She says, good evening, all. This woman is a kook. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much. Let's keep going.
No. Should you have pursued the relationship at all? Should you have walked away?
You're presuming that I
Both of you. It's a question to
pursued
both
it.
of you. You were the adult, Mary.
Okay. But that doesn't mean the personality makes it
Okay.
so.
Here's a succinct way of saying it, and I appreciate this is a difficult discussion.
Well, I think it's kind of disrespectful that we're married and you're going there.
No, because it's the inception. I just want to get that. I just want to deal with what happened at the time. I appreciate that you're married and this is an enduring relationship. I understand that. I'm not saying it was wrong. I'm asking you to answer the critics, okay, at the time. Billy, you're 13 years old. You're transported back. You can make the decision all over again to pursue this relationship. Do you do it?
Would I do it after knowing my kids now? I think there would be a lot of things that I probably would have changed. I mean, I've looked at it. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Like, if I was to pursue it, what would have happened? What ifs? And I really don't know. You know, I can't. There was a lot of complicity of emotions going on with the both of us, her and her personal life and my personal life. And I think a lot of those elements kind of brought us together to be where we are today. Was it right? Was it wrong? I don't know. All I know is that it happened, and everything that did happen, that we do speak of, that we felt within our hearts for each other, was real. But in the legal system and for the average normal it is obviously wrong for many reasons. And I respect the law and the reasons for those laws. And from personal experience and from seeing other people go through it, it is what it is.
Would you say this is...
Right. So I think this is a good place to end it, by him finally getting to speak. And I'm going to leave him up there because I'm going to keep praying for this guy. I hope he has a very long life, and I hope he's able to actually find love on his terms moving forward, because he's still a relatively young guy. I think he's still in his 30s, or he might be in his early 40s now, but he's still young. And he has an opportunity to start over. His kids that he had with her are now adults. So basically, if he finds somebody, it'll almost be like he is fresh, like he has no kids. He has kids, of course, but they're adults. They're living their life. The oldest is in her mid-20s, and the youngest is in her early 20s. And, you know, there's nothing to hold him back from starting anew, because Mary Kay is gone now, and he can now live a life on his terms. But if you really parse through what he said, he basically said, and I think the interviewer should have interjected, he said, now that I know my kids, when he was starting to answer, I'd have said, well, what if, pretend you don't know your kids? Would you have done it again? I think it would have been a resounding no. But even with him prefacing, well, I know my kids, because any good father would say, I wouldn't change anything, because you wouldn't want to live a life without the kids that you have now. You wouldn't want an imaginary kids that you could have had. You want the kids you have now. You're proud of the children that you have now. So if somebody asks you, would you make any changes in your life if you could go back? You'd say no, because I don't want to lose out on the kids that I have now. Will those changes prevent me from being the father that I am now and having the children that I have now? But even with that, he still said there's a lot of things I would have changed. He doesn't want to lose his children. He doesn't want to change the fact that he had his kids, as any good father would say. But he knows there's a lot of things he would have changed. Because if the preference was that you didn't have children with her, would you change it? Would you have not pursued it? He'd say, absolutely yes. I would not have pursued that situation. I would have run away from her like the plague. It is what it is. So New York City baby boomer says she passed away in 2020 at 58. And, I changed directions because I think this was the type of conversation that we would see Alyssa McCommon, who we covered earlier in the show. This is the kind of conversation she would have if we could talk to her years later after she's convicted, if she's guilty, of what she's accused of doing right now. She, to me, would sound exactly the way Mary Kay Letourneau sounds. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me all this time. You guys were great. We had a really good show. Big shout out to, hold on, I want to just give a big shout out to Lisa Michelle, who gifted one Strategic Eyes membership to a lucky member, and that member is ES. So ES now has a membership to the Strategic Eyes Show. And we really do appreciate you gifting that membership. It's awesome that you did that. You guys are amazing. I really am just so excited about this show getting bigger. Please make sure you hit that like button while you're at it. Please know that once again, we have a membership and we see people taking advantage of the membership. And I'm very thankful and grateful for the fact that people are willing to buy memberships and also gift memberships. That's really awesome and very generous of many of you who are doing that. I also just want to let you know we do have a merchandise store. You can go there and buy Strategic Eyes sweatshirts and t-shirts and stuff like that. That helps the channel a lot as well. You can also, just make sure that you share this on your social media. Make sure that other people get access to this video. And always make sure that you hit that like button and make sure that you leave a comment in the comment section, because that comment section is what gets us the engagement. And listen, one thing that YouTube is good at, it gives me all the data that they have. They give me all the data that I need to actually build this show up. And they show me that when I get more engagement, that they show the video to a wider audience. If you don't get engagement, they don't show it to a wider audience. All right, when people search things, it's going to be very low on the search rank. And when we search for things on YouTube, we're only looking at the first 10 or 15 results, right? We're not going to the second and the third and the fourth page. Well, how you get in that top 10 is through engagement, through people hitting the like button, through people leaving comments. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It could just be a smiley face. It could just be, I love this channel. It could just be, thank you so much, Strategic. It could just be 3 lines or an emoji. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Anything left in that comment section, even if it's negative, if you don't agree with what I did today and you give me a thumbs down, that's engagement too. That's people watching the channel and reacting to it. And YouTube knows that sometimes you may not be saying something bad, but somebody still might thumbs down you. So that doesn't hurt the show. It doesn't hurt the channel when you give a thumbs down. So thumbs up, thumbs down, doesn't matter. It's engagement. Comments, whether it's a paragraph or an essay, a personal testimony of what happened to you, what you experienced, or just saying, thank you so much for giving us the show today. That's engagement. So you do that for me. You help the show just as much as if you left a super chat, a membership, or something else. Not everybody has $5 to donate. Not everybody has a monthly membership that they can afford to keep up. If you just hit the thumbs up and you just type a message in the comment section, that's all we need. So anyway, guys, that being said, I see you guys on the next one. We'll get out of here. Look forward for part 2 of our Jen Soto breakdown. So make sure you check that, because we're going to be going hard, analyzing her statements. I'll see you on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.